If you drive an EV, you definitely know the feeling. You pull up to a charger, your battery's in the red, and the screen is completely dead. Or the connector is busted. It's so frustrating, right? Well, I was digging through a recent Harvard Business School study, and it turns out you are definitely not alone. They combed through over 1 million consumer reviews and discovered that public EV chargers in the US are fully reliable only 78% of the time. I mean, think about it. Imagine pulling into a regular gas station and knowing 2 out of every 10 pumps are just completely broken. People would absolutely revolt.
And honestly, even when you do find a working charger, the experience can still be a total mess. Just look at this actual driver review extracted from the research. They put it perfectly. $21.65 to charge. Holy moly. Don't come here unless you're desperate. This right here perfectly captures the Wild West reality of today's charging infrastructure. Pricing is often secretive, it fluctuates wildly, and it's practically unregulated.
So welcome to The Explainer. Today, our mission is to completely demystify exactly what's going on with electric vehicle charging right now. We're going to look past the scary headlines, dig into the root causes of this gridlock, and best of all, uncover the fascinating tech and market innovations that are quietly fixing these issues as we speak.
Okay, let's dive into this. Here's our roadmap for today. First, the reality of charge anxiety. Second, shifting policies and funding. Third, the NACE standardization shift. Fourth, bypassing the grid bottleneck. And finally, mobile and off-grid charging.
All right, Section 1, the reality of charge anxiety.
For the longest time, the biggest hurdle to buying an EV was range anxiety, that fear of your battery dying in the middle of nowhere. But as battery tech has improved, it's fascinating how that old fear has morphed into something totally new. Harvard researcher Omar Asensio and his team define this new reality as charge anxiety. It's no longer about your car's range. It's the very real fear of being stranded because the infrastructure around you just can't be trusted. Finding a plug that actually works has literally become the single biggest roadblock for widespread EV adoption. The researchers used AI to pull the biggest complaints from that mountain of 1 million reviews, and the results are incredibly revealing. We already touched on the broken equipment and the crazy pricing, but drivers are also venting about being iced, which is when a gas-powered car snags a designated EV charging spot. On top of that, the data points to some serious equity issues. We're talking massive charging deserts where entire counties don't have even a single public charger. It's no wonder drivers are frustrated. The cars are scaling up beautifully, but the infrastructure is just lagging way behind.
Moving on to Section 2, shifting policies and funding.
To figure out why we're in this mess to begin with, we really have to look at the macro picture, the government policies and the funding that's supposed to be building this network out. And honestly, the data here is pretty staggering. The federal government set up the Navy program, teeing up a massive $4.4 billion for EV chargers. But a recent report showed states have only actually spent $94 million of it. That is a mere 2%. 2%. Between administrative red tape, changing rules, and recent federal budget freezes, this giant pool of capital is basically just sitting idle while drivers are out there struggling to find a charge.
And it's not just infrastructure money that's shifting, it's how the government incentivizes the vehicles themselves. We're currently transitioning from the old federal policy, which gave you a flat tax credit at the time of purchase, to the Trump administration's new OBBA policy. This new setup swaps that flat credit for a tax deduction on your auto loan interest up to 10 grand, specifically for U.S. assembled vehicles. Now, regardless of your politics, the big takeaway for us is that the economic incentives for buying EVs and building the chargers are actively changing, and the private market is having to adapt incredibly fast to an entirely new reality. Which brings us to Section 3, the NACS standardization shift. Because public funding has been moving at a snail's pace, the private sector is stepping up to fix the problem through standardization, and this brilliantly illustrates Tesla's sheer dominance. By 2026, they'll operate roughly 37,000 fast charging ports in the US. That is 52% of all DC fast chargers in the entire country. Because Tesla actually built a highly reliable, massive network while government efforts stalled out, pretty much every major automaker has now agreed to adopt Tesla's plug, which is known as the North American Charging Standard, or NACS. So what does this actually mean for you practically if you don't drive a Tesla? Well, brands like Porsche are rolling out integrations right now, and the process is remarkably simple. Step 1, you grab a NACS adapter, which a lot of brands are actually making complimentary for newer models. Step 2, you download the Tesla app and register. Step 3, hook up the adapter and plug straight into the supercharger network. It's practically plug and play. Almost overnight, The single standardization shift unlocks over 23,500 highly reliable chargers for millions of non-Tesla drivers, immediately taking a huge bite out of that charge anxiety.
Let's hit Section 4, bypassing the grid bottleneck.
Standardizing the plugs is fantastic, but we still desperately need more stations. And to get them, developers have to bypass the ultimate hurdle, the utility grid. I was genuinely surprised to learn that if you want to build a fast charging station today, just waiting for the local power company to upgrade your grid connection can take up to 2 years and cost $250,000. It's wild. But look at this comparison. Smart operators are using what's called a battery buffer. They install a massive lithium battery right on site. That battery slowly sips a tiny bit of power from the weak grid all day long. Then, when an EV rolls up, the battery unloads a huge, fast burst of power to the car. It's incredibly elegant. It lowers your capital costs, gets you deployed in just 11 weeks, and slashes those expensive utility demand charges by up to 67%.
So the crucial point here is that understanding exactly how a site is utilized shapes the smartest hardware choice. Take this real-world case study from a rural highway cafe over in Europe. They only projected about 14 charging sessions a day. A traditional utility grid upgrade would have cost them €180,000 and taken 22 long months. Instead, they deployed a battery buffer system. It cost nearly half the price and was up and running in just 11 weeks. It perfectly solved their power constraint without ever having to wait on the utility companies.
Finally, Section 5, mobile and off-grid charging.
What if you literally can't connect to the grid at all? Say you're running a commercial delivery fleet and you need power right this second. Building fixed-grid hubs is painfully slow. You have to buy land, navigate complex city permitting, and beg utilities for coordination. Mobile charging completely flips the script. Because the charger is essentially a self-contained power plant on wheels, it requires absolutely zero permitting. It allows for rapid overnight deployment. And the best part? It can literally move across the city as your commercial fleet's needs shift. It is the ultimate agile solution.
Now, what's really interesting about this slide is the tech making it happen. A company called L-Charge has literally integrated a 60-kilowatt DC fast charger straight into the bed of a Ford truck, and it runs entirely off an onboard natural gas or renewable natural gas generator. Then you have Nuvera offering their HydroCharge unit, which uses zero-emission hydrogen fuel cells to generate clean electricity anywhere, anytime. These aren't just far-off sci-fi concepts. They are out there right now, actively rescuing fleets from gridlock and providing instant electrification without laying a single foot of copper wire in the ground. So we've seen that the EV transition right now is messy. It's plagued by broken chargers, installed funding, but we've also seen the incredible ingenuity fighting back. NAC standardization, clever battery buffers, and roaming hydrogen chargers. Which leaves us with a really provocative thought to end on. As our traditional utility grids slowly adapt and these high-tech mobile chargers begin to roam our cities, what exactly will the gas station of 2030 actually look like? Are we even going to drive to stations anymore, or will the power simply come to us? It's a fascinating space, and one we will definitely keep watching. Thanks for joining me for this explainer, and keep your curiosity charged.